And welcome to Thrift Biography. This is the one about Robyn Crawford. Thank you for listening.
Hello.
Hello.
And what have you been reading this week?
I've been reading a book by Robyn Crawford about Whitney Houston.
Oh, that's weird. So have I.
Brilliant, because I really want to talk to somebody about it.
I've been dying to talk about this book.
Oh my God.
Not least because there's some amazing crossovers from other books we've read.
Jermaine Jackson can't wait to tell you about it. Oh my God.
So tell me, for the listeners at home, they may not know who Robyn Crawford is. No. Oh, no, first of all, tell me what you knew of Robyn before you read this book.
I knew that she was Brittany? I knew she was Whitney's best friend.
Okay.
And possibly girlfriend. I've watched documentaries on Whitney in the past, and she's always in them. Mm-hmm. And it's always controversial, were they lovers? But they do seem to have definitely had an incredibly close friendship, but it is never proved. So yeah, I didn't know for sure, and now I know. I feel I know everything because I believe what she tells us. How about you?
Oh, same. I knew of Robyn through documentaries about Whitney Houston. I mean, I've heard about Robyn before all through my life in gossip columns and stuff, of course, because they've always been linked, are they, aren't they? But when I've seen her talk, I've just liked her immensely.
Yeah, she's an extremely sensible, level-headed, competent human being.
Yeah. Are you a Whitney fan?
I love Whitney.
Do you?
Yeah. Her voice is like up there with the angels. It's insane. Yeah. It blows your mind.
Yeah, Whitney is one of those voices where I don't necessarily like the music so much.
Oh, right.
But I'm blown away by her voice every single time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't really care about songs like Didn't We Almost Have It All and The Greatest Love of All, but I can appreciate them because of that voice.
That's right. Do you know what? I wouldn't normally listen to the slower ballads, but Whitney I'll make the exception for. Yeah. And then I'll try and sing along because something about her makes me try and sing along. I think everyone does it. Yeah. It's one of those, you just start yelling your lungs out and you really shouldn't because you can't do it.
Yeah, nobody can match Whitney.
She was 48 when she died. So there's part of you wants to investigate why she rose and fell in such a short time. And this book really helps to get to the bottom of it.
It really gets
to the truth. You feel like it's the truth because you watch a documentary, you don't know how much to believe.
I think this book actually goes some way to debunk something that I learned in a recent documentary. Oh, yeah? We'll get there in a minute. But anyway, so we should stop. Anyway, also, so this book is written by Robyn Crawford, and some of it is about. I mean, it's all about Robyn Crawford. It's just that her orbit clashed with Whitney's orbit at a young age, and Whitney never left.
No.
And even when she wasn't present, Whitney was such a big part of
Whitney is her life, basically.
Yeah. So I feel like when we were talking about Michelle Obama and we just talked about Barack so much, I feel this is essentially a podcast about Robyn Crawford, but most of it's going to be about Whitney Houston, right?
Yeah.
This is an interesting book because it doesn't really start at the beginning. It starts when Robyn met Whitney.
It does.
Robyn has a reasonably modest life with her mum, her dad and her brother, but her dad's not great, is he?
No.
Well, he's a wife beater, isn't he?
Yeah.
So not
she's
great.
Born in 1963.
Oh, okay.
I'll just say that.
Here's the stats,
and
lady.
in Newark, in New Jersey.
Okay.
Or East Orange County. I was really confused because I thought Orange County was
California.
The OC.
Yeah.
But no, there's another one.
No, but is it just East Orange, not East Orange
East
County?
Orange, probably.
Yeah, there's no county on it.
Oh, I just added that.
It's just an orange.
Oh, okay.
Is it?
I don't know, but it's East and it's Orange and it's in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
Kind of.
And that's where Whitney is as well, right?
Yeah.
They're both in this little...
both in the same area. Mm-hmm. It's textbook for biographies. Dad's violent.
Yeah, right.
Cheating, beating up the mum, hospitalising her. She still loves her dad. And she loves her mum. Her mum's actually really, really nice and supportive and wise.
Oh, I loved her mum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did. And it's almost the opposite of Whitney's mum, right?
Despite having a kind of terrible family life, she also has a lot of love and support. Whereas Whitney's, on paper, it looks a lot better because her mum's a successful musician. And
I didn't like her mum at all.
Yeah, but her mum didn't give her love and support.
Yeah.
By what you read through this.
But she got the love and support she needed at church with Jesus, didn't she?
Do you think that's what's supposed to do it?
Yeah, they were regular churchgoers, weren't they?
Yeah.
The Houston family.
She got music.
Yeah.
But I don't think she got a lot of love and support. Well, she didn't.
But I wonder if that's what in Sissy's head. Sorry, we should explain. For people, not everyone will know that Whitney Houston's mum is Sissy Houston.
That's true. And she is a legend in her own right, no way near level of Whitney. But she had records out, albums, but she was a backing singer and started a backing singing group that were on a lot of Aretha Franklin's music. They would with Elvis a lot. They did Vegas.
Right? Yeah, amazing.
Robyn says you listen to and Luther and all of these people, you can really, really hear them.
Sissy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the backing group.
Yeah.
Really so Whitney Houston was born into a family immersed successfully into the music industry. Yeah. With the big names, Aretha and Elvis, she don't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, and sometimes she joined them when she was coming up. She sang on for Shaka Khan as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And she said it was a real seal of approval when Shaka Khan, she went to her first session with Shaka Khan. I mean, she must have been like 14, 15, Whitney,
she was.
And Shaka Khan said, hey, can you move closer to the mic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
she said
validation.
She felt anointed. It's great that she's a massive Shaka Khan fan because then, she sings I'm Every Woman.
Yeah.
Later in life and Shaka Khan name checks her.
Yeah.
Shaka Khan and her mum sang backing on her version of I'm Every Woman.
Oh, okay.
They're not credited for it.
Oh, really? They're in the video, aren't they?
Oh. They are credited for it. Are they?
Yeah, I'm sure they're in the video.
Wow.
Shaka Khan is. I don't know about Sissy. Yeah.
I only remember a metal fence.
A metal fence?
Yeah.
Oh, in the video?
Yeah.
Why is there a metal fence in I'm Every Woman?
It's I Feel For You.
Oh my God.
Okay, I'm getting it all mixed up.
Yeah, I remember the metal fence and I Feel For You. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
I've probably not seen the video for I'm Every Woman.
I have. Shaka Khan's in it.
Uncredited. Was it for The Bodyguard, that song? So we've leapt about.
Yeah.
Back to the start. Yeah, she's surrounded by music. And her mum's running the choir at the church.
Yeah.
And she still is, 50 years later, apparently. She's never stopped. And it sounds like a sister act sort of thing where it's absolutely epic. And it's the sound they make is... You'd want to go to that church. And then Robyn describes very soon after they've met that Whitney's going to do a solo in church. So she invites Robyn to come and listen. And she's in this church feeling like an outsider. And then Whitney steps forward and starts singing this. And she's quite shy, but she just starts like, sort of eyes closed. And this sound that comes out of her mouth. Everyone's standing up. Everyone's going, hallelujah. Grown people are crying. Men and women are crying because she is moving them. She just says, I don't know what's happening here, but there's something with her voice that's connecting with these people that is just ruining them. They are just elevated and connected. And that's the first description of when you know she's so special.
Yeah. And how old is she at that point? 15, 16? 16?
Well, they met when Whitney was 17 and Robyn was 19.
Sissy, I mean, I don't think she comes off well in this book at all, to be honest, Whitney's mum. But I can see that she does at one point have Whitney's best interest at heart because she says to her, if you want to pursue a music career, you have to graduate and you have to go and get a job. How she met Robyn was Whitney had gone to sign up as a counsellor at a summer camp and Robyn was already there assisting and handing out the application forms. And that's where she met Whitney Houston. It sounds like Whitney wasn't really... a self-starter. I don't like to use the word lazy, but I think unless her mum made her go and get, she wouldn't have been there.
No, as opposed to Robyn, who was just completely focused on getting herself up and out and making something of herself.
Yeah.
Well, Whitney absolutely knew she was going to make it as a musician.
As a singer.
So everything else was just a bit of a pest.
Yeah.
Like she's even skipping off school early on and stuff, wasn't she?
Yeah.
So she was invested in music. Didn't really need the rest of it. So that's kind of okay, isn't it?
It's true. And Robyn did actually say she has no clue how Whitney actually graduated because she did just seem to do the bare minimum. So that's why she knew she wouldn't need it.
That's true.
Because she has got this God-given voice.
Yeah. You would think it was God-given if you were a God person. Because where the hell else does that come from? Well, it's phenomenal.
It is, but she's from her mother is an amazing singer.
Yeah, but
is that kind of thing hereditary? Like Mariah Carey's mum was an amazing singer.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to say it's spiritual though. Whatever it is you think God is, it's something higher. And to have some belief in something that's just bigger than yourself and channel that into your voice is what she does. It's just that complete release because you have faith. It is beyond a normal singing. It's giving it all. It's letting it through you. I am in awe of her. Reading this just has cemented that. I hate that she declined like she did.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about the decline, but having known the Whitney journey, only knowing Whitney Houston from Saving All My Love for You, so she's a pop star at this point, and her image was immaculate. To read this book and find out that she was doing drugs from the age of 14 is a real shocker.
Taking coke at 14. She did coke for the first time at 14.
Yeah.
But then she was doing the club circuit with her mum from the age of 14. So I reckon as soon as you're in that club circuit, there's the drugs.
I think her brothers have a big part
and her
to play
brothers
in it.
have older brothers.
She's got so Whitney has a couple of older brothers, Gary and Michael. One of them's
Gary's
a stepbrother. Gary's a stepbrother.
He was an NBA star.
They both made waves in the basketball world, actually. But Gary was let go by his basketball team for unknown reasons, and I think it's because he's a bit of a naughty boy. But he's actually a really good singer as well.
Yeah, because he was doing duets with Whitney early on.
When he turned up.
And he was competent enough to be able to sing.
So they're a family of singers, and I imagine, if your mum is Cissy Houston and you're going to church from when you're 2 years old, and you're singing in the choir.
Yeah.
And
Whitney's cousin is Dionne Warwick as well.
Whitney's cousin is Dionne Warwick.
Yeah.
And her sister Dionne's sister Dee Warwick, who was also a singer.
Yeah, I don't know her, actually.
She comes up in this book, and
she does, but I don't know.
Okay, in fact, it's not really part of the story, so I'll do it now. But Dee Warwick is Dionne Warwick's sister, and she's Whitney Houston's auntie. In a documentary I watched 2 years ago, it basically said that Dee Dee had abused Whitney and her brother when they were children.
Wow.
And that was the source of Whitney's problems. Robyn actually dismantles that very quickly in this book by telling a story of where they went to see Dee Dee. And within a sentence she goes, "Things have been said about Dee Dee, but none of it is true." Whitney really liked him.
That's what that was about.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So she just very quickly shot that down. And I believe Robyn, and I do believe that if Dee Dee had done anything to Whitney, I think Whitney and Robyn were so incredibly close, I think she would have told her.
I agree. And then she would have written it in the book, or hinted at it.
You know what, though? That is out there now on that documentary. Not everybody's going to be reading Robyn's book.
That's harsh, isn't it?
That's out there on the documentary. And actually, I was so shocked by it, I went onto Twitter and everyone was talking about Dee Dee.
I think this. I just feel like this woman Robyn is utterly reliable as a human being.
Oh my God, I wish I knew her.
Yeah,
she could sort my life out. Yeah.
I mean, she needed help herself at certain times. But,
yeah.
I mean, so she saw Whitney anyway, and just saw this beautiful woman, and who was on her own, and went up to her and said, "What's your name?" And she said, "Whitney Elizabeth Houston." She just thought that was a bit different. And she said, "I'm going to keep my eye on you, look out for you." And that's basically what she did for the next how many years. They became complete friends, and they went to the church thing and all that. And they became intimate as lovers fairly early on because they just sort of fell in love with each other.
Yeah, I think they clicked immediately in that first meeting. And then Robyn was going around picking Whitney up in her car and stuff and hanging out. I loved reading about it. It was like a little summer friendship that really blossomed.
A real love.
Yeah.
A sort of soulmates.
Yeah.
And Whitney was already smoking a lot, cigarettes, and weed.
Yes, I was really surprised that she was even a smoker, but she was.
So it was her who was off the rails first. I mean, not off the rails, but not completely on them. And then she got Robyn into all that stuff.
Yeah, she did.
It was that way round.
One thing about Whitney that I have to say is that her family, so she's got these two brothers, Gary, who's just trouble, Michael, who I think sounds okay, but he is just into drugs.
There were times when he was really into drugs, yeah.
Mother's just a nightmare, and her dad just doesn't sound any good. But in the middle of it all, you have Whitney, who is a complete opposite, and she sounds like Robyn's mum noticed that Whitney was really polite and just like a really nice girl, and she couldn't work out how she came from this family.
Yeah, but she did say when she first met Whitney, she said, "You look like an angel, but I know you're not."
Oh yes,
that's massively insightful, isn't it? I was going to write that down to remember it. Turns out I've just remembered it because it's just really, that's deep. That she said that as well. She said it to her.
What's amazing about that is when I first saw Whitney Houston and I saw her, and I know this is the way the record company presented her, I thought of her as nothing else but an angel.
Wow.
So that is what she looks like. That is how she comes across. So it was a real shock when she went off the rails, and became this drug demon.
Right, yeah.
But Robyn's mum had her number.
Yeah, I know, straight away. Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And there's points when Robyn's going along with it, the drugs and this and that, because they just become one person for a while. But she doesn't like it. There's part of her that always knows it's not who she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then when Robyn's mum looks at her and says, "What's wrong with you? You don't seem present." She says, "Oh, look, Mum, I've been taking drugs," and just spills it all out. She then says, "Give me Whitney's mum's number. I'm phoning her and telling her everything." Yeah. So she told her, and of course, nightmare. My mum's telling her mum, we're all going to be in so much trouble. And then Cicely Houston doesn't actually apparently care.
Yeah.
And that's that first clue that she's not the best mother, really, or a big clue. Yeah. Because this crops up quite a lot when various people are off their heads and she doesn't really care.
Yeah.
There's no discipline. It's all very well that she intervened just before Whitney died. That's way too late, mate.
Yeah. It does make you wonder whether Sissy's just been around drugs her whole life. Like you say, she's been in the music industry, so when her kids are also on drugs, it's just part of her life. I imagine
it has, but then she should have seen the damage it can do, of all people.
Yeah.
Or sit down and have a chat. Like, if you're getting into this is what it can happen. I don't think she seems quite detached as a mother. She's off trying to promote her own career, and I've seen in documentaries where it says she's quite jealous of Whitney. And there's a couple of times Robyn says, her mum says, somebody said, "Whitney's so beautiful, don't look at her, look at me," or something.
Right, yeah.
Or
anytime anybody wants to get to Whitney, they have to go through her mother. So there's that real control thing as well. Like Sissy just wants to stay relevant and doesn't want to be overshadowed by her daughter, which in a way she kind of isn't, but ultimately she is. Yeah. Do you know as well, it's just that whole thing, if she was singing with Elvis in Las Vegas, she would have seen that man deteriorate because of drugs and ultimately die.
At 42. Yeah, if that's not a warning, what is?
Yeah.
By the way, she says that Cicely always says how nice Elvis was. She said there's a lot of racism at that time, a lot of going in back doors in venues and all that stuff, and not being treated right. But Elvis was singled out. She says he gave them gifts and he was always lovely to them. It's nice to hear that about Elvis. Yeah. It's good. I like that.
So Whitney is a teen model. Did you know this?
I did not know that. And she got noticed outside Carnegie Hall and on the street, which it happens a lot to people.
Yeah.
But there weren't black faces on magazines, teen magazines. She was one of the first on 17 with a white girl.
With a white girl.
One of the first.
And I found a sewing pattern on eBay that's got a young Whitney Houston on the cover.
Oh.
Yeah, like the packet.
What's it for? A dodgy jumper?
No, for like a blouse. And she's got really short hair.
Has she?
Whitney Houston's got really short hair. When she's a model.
They said when she got going as a diva, they had to put weaves in and she didn't want it. Oh, wow.
So she's always kept short hair.
I'd like to see a picture of that. I'll have to Google it.
Google it, and everybody can Google it at home.
Any sewing pattern.
So young Whitney is being a model, and she is also singing at a club called the Sweetwater Club, which her mum spends all her time in. She's getting session work. Ashford and Simpson.
Yeah, Valerie Simpson. Yeah. I love them.
Yeah.
Most amazing songwriters.
Yeah.
Their back catalogue, anyone looks them up unless you know.
They wrote I'm Every Woman.
They wrote bloody everything. All the Diana Ross stuff. Oh, everything. They're amazing. Anyway, yeah. Valerie Simpson sees Whitney and says, she phones Quincy Jones.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And says, you probably want to sign this woman. He says, I've got someone like that.
I've got Patty Austin already.
No, you haven't,
need
Quincy.
Whitney Houston.
No, you haven't. But he didn't know that.
Patty Austin is the voice on I Know Corrida? Or is it Razzmatazz?
Oh, right.
I can't remember. It's one or the other.
I don't know that.
Because they're both credited to Quincy Jones, right?
Yeah, that's his.
One of them's Patty Austin. Anyway, it's because of Patty Austin, Quincy Jones doesn't sign Whitney Houston. Yeah, what an idiot.
Yeah. And that's the only time we'll ever call him an idiot. He's definitely not an idiot.
Oh, we're reading his book soon because you found it in the thrift shop.
Can't wait. And then,
so then it gets to Clive Davis, right?
Yeah.
Head honcho of
Arista Records.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Elektra Records come as well.
Right.
Clive Davis comes, watches Whitney be brilliant, and then he just gets up and leaves.
You'd have to be an idiot not to sign Whitney.
You would.
If you've heard her.
Yeah.
Sorry, Quincy.
And so she did like a single thing on, I don't think, she didn't sign to Elektra Records, but she recorded a track with an artist on Elektra Records. And because of that, that spurred Clive Davis into action. He got in there straight away and signed her to Arista.
It's amazing. There's quite a gap between signing her and her launching. It's almost 2 years. And I guess that's what they do. They find the right music. They go and work with different artists. Can we talk about Jermaine Jackson now?
Yes, but it contradicts what Jermaine says in his book.
Yeah, but I believe Robyn. There's no way Jermaine was telling the truth.
I know, so we need to set the stage.
If nobody's listened to our Jermaine podcast, he says that him and Whitney were besotted with each other when they recorded a duet together. But he was married to Berry Gordy's daughter, so he couldn't be unfaithful. But they had this amazing spark, and nothing happened.
We literally made fun of him for not shagging Whitney Houston. It's like, why would you have that opportunity and not take it?
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact you're married, we actually said, if you're going to cheat on your wife, cheat on her with Whitney Houston. Did
we say that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
But now we get another side of the story from Whitney's side of the story.
Well, Robyn, the sensible relayer of fact. What happened was, once Whitney signed with Arista, she went to Robyn and said it'd be best if they stopped sleeping with each other and just have a platonic relationship. Firstly, for her career, and secondly, because then they won't go to hell.
She said that while gifting her a Bible.
And they wrote in the Bible that they were soulmates and they absolutely love each other and their love is true, but it had to become platonic from that moment on.
This is the problem that I really have with religion and the church. Whitney's a Baptist, by the way. I mean, she's been there ever since. She loves Jesus and she's praising the Lord every week with her amazing voice. She's so entrenched in that religion, she can't be who she actually wants to be. And it drives me fucking mad.
Yeah.
To the point where she's got this beautiful relationship with a beautiful woman her age, her soulmate.
Yeah.
And she goes to her, gifts her a Bible and says, we can't continue this relationship because we'll go to hell.
Yeah.
Fucking, it's
tragic.
Up.
I've often wondered, not knowing if they had a real relationship, but I've often wondered if that was the reason she'd gone off the rails and declined, because she wasn't allowed to be her true self.
Yeah.
And reading this book, I don't find it completely black and white, actually. She went straight off, recorded with Jermaine Jackson and completely was smitten with him and slept with him, had a sexual relationship with him. And I do wonder whether maybe she might have had affairs anyway, even if she was allowed to. Do you know what I mean? When she'd gone off and become a pop star, that was her first love. There's no doubt about that. But everybody, a lot of people have a first love and then move on. Mm-hmm. She might have moved on anyway.
No, because she kept Robyn in her life for the next 30 years.
Yeah, it's cruel to Robyn, that. No wonder she had to have a lot of therapy eventually.
Yeah. Do you know what? There was part of me, because reading Jermaine's book, saying that, why would he say he didn't sleep with Whitney Houston?
Because he doesn't want his wife to know he's unfaithful.
He's not married to her anymore.
Doesn't matter. He didn't want to come across like that.
It did cross my mind that Whitney may have been saying it to hurt Robyn.
She said they only slept together 3 times. That was that specific, though.
What, Jermaine?
Yeah. She says Whitney only slept with Jermaine 3 times. She told her everything after she'd said, I know something happened. She then confessed it. It seems a bit specific, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And also, of course, they did. Jermaine said...
No, I know, of course
Whitney was looking at him, they were really close to the microphone, and Whitney had said to Jermaine, what are you going to do with me, Jackson, or something? It's like, how can you not?
I know, I get
Whitney says that to you.
I get it.
In that environment.
Well, I find it very strange that Jermaine has not said, hey guys, I shag Whitney. Wouldn't anyone?
I think he's trying to paint a picture that he was faithful.
But then later in the book he says that he wasn't with just somebody else. Just somebody else who was not Whitney Houston.
Maybe he didn't want his ex-wife or kids. He could be trying to look like a good dad.
No, but he's confessed to extramarital affairs, just not the one with Whitney Houston. Whereas you'd forgive him the one with Whitney Houston because it's Whitney Houston.
She was 18, very young, very impressionable. It was her first man.
Oh, so do you think then that Jermaine has not admitted to it because he was told and he doesn't want to be seen as a dirty old man?
The way it was the first big rift between Robyn and Whitney, and it was a huge deal between them. And so Whitney confessing to that is such a big deal.
Yeah.
I can't not believe it's true. Okay. I believe her 100 times over Jermaine.
Yeah, I kind of think just because of the bare facts, of course, anybody would sleep with Whitney Houston. Yeah. Okay, so Whitney and Jermaine did it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Moving on. Oh, but it's kind of interesting because Jermaine keeps phoning the house to speak to Whitney. So it looked like it was going to carry on.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Whitney made that video with the Jermaine lookalike in it.
Saving All My Love for You. And if you listen to the words of that song, it's completely somebody having an affair with a married man.
Yes, exactly. And it's a total Jermaine lookalike.
He completely looks like him.
Yeah, and then they were coming to town, the Jackson 5, they were going to do a concert.
This is a mystery. No, the Jacksons.
The Jacksons, sorry, yeah. And then they were going to get free tickets, and then Jermaine just fizzled out. Probably his wife joined him on that tour or something like that. I bet you something like that happened.
Right, but they didn't even call you, but you could still give Whitney and Robyn tickets to the show.
But she wasn't Whitney Houston then. She was just a young, aspiring artist. Mm-hmm. So it's just another fan you slept with sort of thing.
Okay. You know what I mean? It's just so weird to think that anybody would consider Whitney not important. But I guess when you're a Jackson...
He's married, he's got kids. He's probably having other affairs, and he doesn't need the complication.
Maybe he doesn't admit to sleeping with her because he doesn't want us all to think what an idiot he is for letting her go. Yeah, that's it. Okay, all right.
Got to the bottom of that. Anyway, it's very good detective work reading these different people's. We've got to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You know, we were just talking about how religious Whitney was.
Yeah.
Before Robyn went to see Whitney in church, Whitney says, so I'm singing in church. I go to the Baptist church, but I hate it. It's fake and filled with hypocrites.
Oh, yeah.
Because her mum, Sissy Houston, is shagging the Reverend.
Yes, the married Reverend.
Wow.
Yeah. No wonder she isn't very strict on others. Because and Robyn said, I never actually...
Hang on, didn't you just say at the beginning that she's still been at the church for 50 years as she still is now?
Oh,
it's because she's getting the holy cock. It keeps you coming back.
Perks of the job.
Yeah, I was shocked that anybody would sleep with a Reverend, but Whitney Houston's mum is right.
It's just people.
And Robyn says she came round the house one day and she saw the Reverend at the breakfast table in his undershirt.
In just his shirt, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
but you're not allowed to be gay, but you're allowed to be shagging the married Reverend.
Yeah, right.
What a load of... Anyway, moving on.
Actually, I did see a video where Oprah, after the fact, interviewed Sissy Houston.
Yeah.
And she said to her, would you have a problem if Whitney was gay? And Sissy Houston said, yeah, absolutely, I would.
Wow.
Yeah, she made no bones about it.
Yeah.
Homophobic old witch.
Well, yeah.
Church, innit? Church.
Church is the excuse for it. Yeah,
exactly.
It's real shame. Meanwhile, running alongside this is Robyn's own life. She's got a gay brother who her dad just beats because he cannot handle that his son is gay, even though her dad's brother is gay. And he's totally cool with his brother being gay. He loves his brother, but he can't stand his son and he beats it out of him.
I don't think, does he know his son? He's beating his son. He doesn't necessarily know he's gay at that point. It's just that he's not a man's man, right?
Yeah, it's probably underlying.
But then the brother ends up going into the Marines, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, it's self-parent.
It's
gay children.
Messed up, isn't it? But then he ends up getting full-blown AIDS and dying of AIDS because... And he says that he was chasing a lot of straight blokes and all sorts because he had daddy issues. He wanted his dad to love him.
But also he had a terrible car accident. They don't know whether he got AIDS from the blood transfusions as well.
So
it's very unclear as how he did get it.
Yeah.
But that's just horrendous.
And whilst we're talking about this, Robyn's mum got AIDS. Don't know why... and also died of AIDS. I mean, it's really, really tragic because her mum and her brother were absolutely lovely, brilliant and supportive people.
Poor Robyn.
And I mean, she lost them before she left working for Whitney, and that can't have helped because she actually needed support herself, and all she was doing was giving support.
Yeah, I know. I hate to lose both of your mum and your brother.
And then her sister kind of lost the plot, and they said it was brought on by grief. So then she had to look after her sister. This was all whilst Whitney was falling apart, and she was trying to prop up. Yeah. Right, anyway, we need to move on with this. She hasn't even met Bobby Brown yet.
So hang on, so Whitney...
She hasn't even got a first album out yet.
Okay, Whitney's done with Jermaine and she's recording her first album, which is a huge success, right? She goes on the Merv Griffin show in America, which is the first national TV performance. She blows everyone away. Did you notice that her mum is behind the curtain. So they have a band.
Yeah.
I think this is really illustrative of what Cissy Houston, how controlling Cissy Houston is. But this is where
also
it's a
how
good
musical.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the house band are playing a song for Whitney to sing, and they're not quite catching the tempo. So Cissy Houston just takes over, goes behind the curtain,
on stage
and conducts them, and you can see her behind the curtain.
So pick up the tempo.
So which means that Whitney can sing as amazingly as she can. Yeah. So that's a really good illustration of how Cissy Houston can look after her daughter and bring
musically,
out the best in
anyway.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's terrible in other ways. So she does this TV show and she's amazing. Everyone loves her. And then her record comes out and really sells.
She takes off fast.
Yeah. And then her second album came out and was even bigger, right? With like I Want to Dance with Somebody and all of those songs.
It's insane. You go, oh my God, all those were on one album. But all her albums have hits all over them. She didn't do as many as you think, actually.
No, she didn't, because I was really surprised at the end when it's the My Love Is Your Love album. Can't remember what it's called. It might even be called My Love Is Your Love.
Yeah.
It just said that was her fourth album. It's just like, that's really late in her career.
No, some people just knock them out. Like, what, Elton John had 4 in 1 year.
Yeah.
She had 4 or 5 in a lifetime.
Yeah, I was really surprised at that.
Yeah, huge hits.
She had her soundtrack albums, though, which would be additional to that.
Yeah, I guess she did a lot of other work, like films, and she did a lot of other work, and then went on massive tours promoting them as well.
I think the tours are they work these singers so hard on tour, and it seems to be the undoing of most of them, actually, not least Whitney. And drugs were very available.
The amount of drugs.
Tours.
Yeah, there was the Greatest Love World Tour. They called it the Greatest Drugs World Tour.
Yeah, wow.
It's that classic thing of whenever the band arrives, all the crew people in that venue, like arenas, are there with the drugs when they get there. You can't escape it if you tried, and they're not trying.
It's a good way of making money if you're a crew person at a big venue, I imagine. Getting drugs for everyone.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting thing which Robyn noticed about Whitney's brother Gary. So I think it's on one of the earlier concerts. Whitney's done a couple of duets up to this point with Teddy Pendergrass and stuff. Obviously, those people aren't touring with her. So her brother Gary comes on stage to sing the male part in the duets. And they were about to do a gig and Gary was nowhere to be seen. And everybody, apart from Whitney, is kind of freaking out. Thinking,
Carnegie Hall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty important.
Yeah. And he's just not there. And she's like, he'll come, don't worry about it. When he turns up, he's the worse for wear. Like, shouldn't really be going on stage. Yeah. And Cissy just says, get on there and sing. And he does. And Robyn says this was a bit that she noticed. There was no consequence or repercussions to getting off your head. And you can get off your head and you can still go on stage and do your
set
thing.
That tone.
Yeah. So right from the beginning of her solo career, she's kind of... Oh, God, it's just so sad.
It is.
Why she's just not looked after.
These stars, they burn up. They burn bright and then burn up.
Yeah, but because...
And people clean up financially.
Here's the trouble with Whitney as well, which is the same as with Britney, and I think Amy Winehouse to a certain extent. Their family are involved in their business. When Whitney was signed to Arista, but she hadn't had a hit yet, when she was recording her first album, they put her on $300 a week.
Oh, that's so crap.
Yeah, it's crap.
Yeah.
She phoned up her manager and said, can I have $400 a week? And he said, no. And so Whitney just said, okay then. And like Robyn said, even though she seems like she's a real confident woman, she says actually she's very shy and she does find it hard to speak up for herself in a professional context. So they told Cissy, and Cissy said, get Whitney's dad to deal with it. Yeah. John Houston, right? So Robyn then got John involved. He got the extra $100 for Whitney, but then...
He never let go, did he?
He signed on as a financial manager. Yeah. And Robyn says it was one of the worst things she ever did was get her dad involved in Whitney's financial... Yeah,
because it crops up later that she was broke, and then when they investigated into it, her dad had been bankrolling half the family.
Half the family were on Whitney's payroll.
But a huge...
Oh, she's paying for their houses and their cars.
Everything.
Yeah. In fact, to the point where the accountant says to Robyn, this woman's going to have no money left for herself.
Yeah. But this is why nobody cares about these people properly, because they're just making the money. And they don't, whatever it takes, because there's a point where they need the drugs to get on, so they make sure they got the drugs to get onto that stage. Yeah. There's a point where it's still going up before it just starts getting really, really out of hand. There's years where the drugs will help them get to the next
Also, if you are like Whitney's mum and dad and brother, and Whitney is paying for your house, she's not paid for it yet. What needs to happen? If she's paying for your house, she needs to continue to pay for your house.
Yeah.
So it's like if Whitney doesn't get on that stage and their house payments stop.
Yeah.
So they need to keep her going, otherwise they will lose.
And they're probably all drug addicts at this point. Well, I know her brothers are. I mean, everyone around you's probably taking drugs. And that burns up a lot of money right there.
Right there.
Bodyguard, right? Can we talk about Bodyguard? Because it's great. Because it turns out that Kevin Costner pestered Whitney because he wanted her for the part. And it's not written for a black woman or a white woman. It's not specified. Kevin Costner wanted Whitney
Houston.
I love that he went after Whitney. And Robyn says he was actually a soul boy. He really loved soul. And it was his idea to put I Will Always Love You in, to cover that, and to sing it a cappella at the start. It was his idea.
Wow.
And he really nurtured her, and he pestered her for so long, and he eventually said, I will walk you through this. I will take care of you. I will train you in everything. I won't let you fall. Please do this film with me.
Guys, he really just had a vision. When he read that script, he must have just been thinking about Whitney the whole time, and nobody else would do.
Yeah, and he actually spoke at her funeral, so I think he must have really loved her. And I think it comes across that. I think that's partly why the film's so amazing.
Yeah, they have a real chemistry.
Yeah, it's lovely. And that film was amazing.
Do you know that Kevin Costner was going to do a sequel to The Bodyguard? And do you know who he wanted to be in that?
No.
Princess Diana.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The Bodyguard was like huger, wasn't it? It was like I think it's still the biggest selling movie soundtrack of all time. Beat Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
And then just kept going.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
It's Bobby Brown that is the ultimate dark force here, isn't it?
Oh, do you think so?
Yes, I never used to know when I watched these documentaries.
Oh, I kind of always knew that Bobby didn't really do drugs until he met Whitney, and we were kind of taught it was the other way around.
Yeah, no, I heard that too. I heard that. That's why I always thought that it was actually her that took him down, but I didn't know the stuff I've read about in this book, how violent he was to her.
He's terrible.
How he always had other women. It destroys her mentally. There's points where they're in hotels and he's got another room so he can have his women in other rooms. And she's going mad with it and taking more drugs to sort of numb it.
So, hang on, where did they meet, Bobby Brown?
They met at some awards, Soul Train Awards.
Oh, Whitney's getting booed at the Soul Train Awards,
right? Oh, yeah, they don't think she's
black
enough. And then what's really annoying is her next album when she gets Babyface and...
L.A. Reid.
Yeah, and it gets much more R&B urban sound. They say it's fake. She can't win. It's absolute bollocks. Win. She's just let it go. She's just amazing. Leave it at that.
She is amazing.
Poor woman.
I know.
I know.
She's getting booed at the Soul Train Awards, and now she meets Bobby Brown on top of it.
Yeah, that's
should have stayed at home.
Terrible shame. And what's sad is she had a thing going with Eddie Murphy around this time. Robyn says she actually preferred Eddie. She wanted to go out with Eddie.
He treated her
worse.
Terribly.
It's such a shame because I come round to Eddie Murphy thinking...
Oh, don't come round to Eddie Murphy. I worked with somebody once who was seeing Eddie Murphy. Yeah. He is a terrible person, a humiliating partner. Yeah. Like, honestly, one of the worst men on this planet. But he did that to Whitney Houston, and she let him. Her
self-esteem was really low. She was going, what's wrong with me? That's what Robyn says. She's going, what's wrong with me? Why are these men treating me like this? They just really diminished her self-esteem, didn't they?
She met Bobby Brown, and then she had a party where she invited Bobby Brown and Eddie Murphy. Bobby Brown came and stayed all night. Eddie Murphy came for 15 minutes, said hello, and left. And Robyn finds out later that in that very brief exchange, he'd agreed to come back and have dinner with Whitney. Yeah. Whitney Houston in her house, got a chef in, did a nice little romantic dinner, got her nicest dress on, and Robyn was watching from afar.
Really thinking, excited. This romantic dinner for two.
And Robyn was thinking, I wish she was doing that for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's doing it for Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy didn't show up, didn't even call or anything. And so that upsets Whitney, and she retreats to her room or whatever. Then a bit later, she goes to Eddie Murphy's house. Outside the gates, he keeps her waiting
in lingerie and a fur coat.
Oh my God!
Just to add to the humiliation, and they won't let her through the gates.
They say Eddie's busy. Then after that, she went missing, and they found her 2 days later. She'd been on a massive drug binge.
She's gone after the wrong person here.
Humiliation.
Must say.
It has to kind of be deliberate, though, doesn't it?
Ah, damn it. These are bad choices. You have to...
Oh my gosh, she has a perfect partner in
You have to take
Robyn
some responsibility
just
for yourself. Yeah, she does. She has somebody who loves her there, right there. That's what's sad about it.
I wonder if you have that person just right there waiting for you. You think, okay, I'm going to go off and try all these other people because I can fall back and I have this here. That she's my safety net.
No.
If Bobby Brown is constantly treats Whitney so awful.
He's a terrible, terrible choice.
Terrible person.
It's terrible. I don't know if she got him into drugs or if he was in them
I don't
already.
care. I
but
hope
it doesn't
she
really
did.
matter because he was very bad.
And I do think, there's this thing where Whitney goes and surprises him when he's on tour. Okay, it sounds like she's going to surprise him. Actually, I think she's going to try and catch him out because she knows he's going to have other
If she's
women
convinced herself it'll be a nice surprise, then she's a fool.
Yeah. But there's that awful time where she did go and surprise him. And he would, first of all, wouldn't come to the door of the hotel room. The hotel wouldn't let her in.
Yep.
So she got a room on the same floor as Bobby Brown. Anyway, eventually he comes out and he says, "What are you doing here? This is my time." It's like, that's your fucking wife, the mother of your child. Anyway, they have a massive argument. Bobby Brown hocks up a loogie and spits it in Whitney Houston's face.
That's how worthless she is.
That is horrendous. And then he picks up a glass that I don't know is out and then throws it at her. She runs down to the lobby to pick up the phone. And then he grabs the phone off her and smacks her around the head with it. This is just like in a hotel lobby. This is how bad it's got. It's all out in public at this point. And she keeps going back to him.
And Robyn says he's doing it at Whitney's house. And the staff are turning a blind eye. It's that classic thing.
Well, because the staff, I think, are on... all with the family, aren't they? I think that the security guards in her house are something like her brother's brother-in-law or something. So they're all part of the machine who are all interested in taking the money but actually don't care about Whitney.
She got married to this stupid bloke.
Bobby Brown.
Yeah, and on their wedding day, Eddie Murphy phones her up to say, don't marry him, it's a massive mistake. Firstly, you've got no right to say that, you arsehole. Secondly... why are you phoning on the wedding day? It's a bit embarrassing to go back on something at that point.
I think that's just Eddie Murphy being a dick.
Yeah.
Oh, he's just an arsehole.
I think he is. I think you're right. Anyway, they bloody got married and she returns from her honeymoon with a scar on her face. Oh, Christ, these fucking people. And it goes on. And then they had a kid.
Yes, they did have a kid, little Bobby Christina.
And sadly, because we're in the future, we know that she died not long after Whitney in a similar manner, and it's a bloody tragedy again. Drugs really again.
Is. Yeah.
There's a lot of perpetuating misery, isn't there, in that family?
Yeah, for sure. The press were kind of onto Whitney and Robyn's relationship.
They were.
Like almost all the way through her career.
All the way through. It's absolutely constant. They keep saying. Robyn says every interview they do, almost every single interview Whitney ever does, they say to her, "Is Robyn your girlfriend? Are you gay?"
So they're like constantly questioning Whitney. But of course she's always denying it, right?
Do you think she's having these relationships to prove she isn't gay the whole time?
Well, there is a point, because obviously it coming up in the press a lot, it's not escaping the attention of her mother and her father.
Yeah.
And they're both kind of saying, Sissy said to Whitney, don't be seen with Robyn in public anymore. Don't hold her hand. Take separate cars.
Yeah.
They know that relationship is potentially problematic for the success of Whitney Houston, the brand, which is their bankroll. To the point where Whitney's dad pays one of the bodyguards $6,000 to smash in Robyn's kneecaps. But don't finish her off because it will upset Whitney.
Yeah.
I mean, bloody hell. That's the kind of people we're dealing with here.
Yeah. And that's when there's that much money, millions and millions at stake.
Yeah. They don't want to correct. Things are going very, very well. We don't want anything that's going to upset this massive money-making machine that we're hugely benefiting from. Kill the lesbian.
Bloody hell. I know, it's so weird. Sometimes they seem to like her, sometimes they don't. There's a thing on the tour, when they're on tour and they hire some dancers, and this one dancer called Joy They're in London.
Yeah, they're in
And
London.
she's working the whole time, Robyn. She never gets bloody time off, running around doing everything, sorting everything out. There's a day off possibility. So Joy says, do you want to come out and come around London with me? They have a really great day out. When she gets back, Whitney's absolutely distraught. Where have you been? Who have you been with? What have you been doing? Because she can't easily go out and do anything at all. And Whitney slaps her. She's really upset. She's jealous. Is anything going on between you two? And Robyn says, we did kiss. And she's like, I don't want you to see her again. She's bloody married with a kid at this point.
Yeah, right.
And then Sissy comes in and says, what have you done being out all day? Whitney's been in a total mess, and slaps her. She gets 2 slaps in a day.
Oh my God, poor Robyn.
Yeah, and Whitney fires Joy.
Yeah,
She phones her up and says, I hired you to dance. That's all. You're fired. So then, of course, a black mark on Robyn. She can't go anywhere or do anything because everyone's going to be afraid they'll get sacked. So that puts a stop to any life she's got outside work.
Yeah.
And then she says, I want to make this right. I'm going to meet Joy one more time and just talk to her about this. She's going to come round to my apartment. And Whitney turns up and totally kicks off. So she can't even have that conversation. And that was a point where she experimented with moving out, because up to this point, all through these years, they've lived together. They're in hotels together. They're sharing houses together. They're roommates, soulmates. Even in this marriage, even when Bobby and Whitney are holed up in a room for days, even when they've got a kid, Robyn's still living with them. And she's trying to get, at this point, it's about mid-90s, she's trying to have a bit of her own life. And Whitney says it's not working with that Joy and you having this going on. And she sells the apartment and at a loss and moves back in with her. That's how much her life is swallowed up by Whitney. That's why we're talking about Whitney in Robyn's book, because Whitney is her life.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah.
I mean, she ran Whitney's
absolutely
life and
ran her
career.
business.
And then, of course, Whitney's family, her mum and dad, do try and squeeze Robyn out and they push her out.
Only because of the gay thing. They wouldn't otherwise. She's doing a great job. She's doing album covers, designs. She's designing tour outfits. Every interview, every tour, every merch price, It's amazing what she had a part of.
And the dad is handling the financial stuff, and Robyn does say to him, why can't I see any of this? He's like, you don't have to worry about that. I wonder if they feel that she's not interfering.
Too efficient.
Yeah.
She'll uncover the
fact.
corruption underneath. She probably would, actually.
Yeah, of course, because she has Whitney. She's the only person who has Whitney's best interest.
She actually is the only one. And there's a really bad point where Whitney has gone and told Bobby Brown about the relationship with Robyn, which is way late in their relationship with. That was a massive mistake, because then Bobby's completely against her.
So Bobby is very vocal about getting Robyn out of the way as well.
Yeah.
So everybody wants Robyn out of the way at this point.
And because he's so violent, there's times where Robyn is clearly saying to Whitney, do you actually want this? But Bobby's there. And you can feel just his silence, but the threat.
Yes.
And so Whitney's going, no, actually I don't, Robyn. And just...
Yeah.
And, then she's got no power. And it's around that time when she starts to realise, I can't look after you anymore, Whitney, because you're so dominated by Bobby.
Yeah.
If you're putting him over me all the time, I can't do my job.
Yeah.
I can't look after you. She is muscled out eventually because of that. Oh, we should also throw this in. Robyn has come off drugs quite a long time ago.
Yeah.
She realised when it was escalating, all the coke and weed and everything, that it was getting too much. And did she go to rehab, or did she just wind it in?
She spoke to her mum first. Her mum was actually a drugs counsellor back in the day. And when Robyn first admitted to taking cocaine and stuff, the next time she came home, there were 2 drug counsellors sat on her kitchen table. I mean, it's a worse thing for anyone.
But she was really cocky. The next time she came home, the locks were
changed.
And so she had to earn her way back into the house.
I think she spent 3 weeks sleeping in her car, and then she went and got a job at the airport.
Yeah.
And then when she told her mum that, she said her mum let her back in, and her mum was so tearful. But that's the tough love she needed.
That's the consequences thing that Whitney was lacking.
She didn't have it at all, did she, poor Whitney?
No.
Look, I know this is Robyn's book, right?
Yeah.
So she's obviously going to tell us all the best bits about herself. Actually, no. Do you know what? She does actually admit to hitting Whitney once.
Does she?
Quite early on in the car.
Oh, she does.
I think it's the Jermaine episode, I think.
Yeah, and then she's so sorry. She actually stopped the car and said, do you want me to get out and walk home?
Yeah.
Like she self-punished.
Yeah.
And it never happened again.
But she
knows it was in her.
Yeah, she admits just how angry she was, and everything that was going on came to a head, and she hit Whitney and immediately regretted it. And so actually, the fact that she admitted to that makes me think she is telling us some bad things about herself.
Yeah.
But do you know what? Just when you get the measure of someone, I have seen her talking on TV before. I've always really liked her. She's so level-headed, so sensible. And I do honestly, from reading this book and the other things I know about the whole Whitney Houston machine, Robyn was the one person who was truly on Whitney's side.
Yeah.
But here's a question for you, having read the book. Do you think ultimately Robyn could have saved Whitney?
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's another case of that bloody drugs.
Yeah.
It's such a hard thing for people to get over, to fight, and I don't think Whitney had any fight in her right from the start.
And
she likes them.
Here's a bit of a redeeming thing about Whitney's dad, actually, is that Robyn went to her dad and say, no, we need to get Whitney help right now. And her dad goes with her to the rehab centre, organises it all. They go and get Whitney, and that is when Whitney says, no, I like doing drugs.
Yeah.
And then you can't help anyone like that.
And she did go a couple of times, and every time she went, she came back and went into a 2-week binge with her brother or something. And
those brothers are so problematic. You know. Clive Davis offered, because Whitney wouldn't go to rehab, Clive Davis offered Whitney his house and said, come with Robyn and I will give you a couple of nurses round the clock and get off it that way. So you're not going to a rehab facility. You're doing it in my house. He still wouldn't do it.
Right.
So they really thought of everything, and they really tried to give her as much help as possible. She ultimately just didn't want to.
No.
She probably was just so fucking exhausted at that point.
It says she was tired very early on with all that touring. She was tired. But it's part of her personality, I think, as well. I think probably like to escape reality.
Well, you know what? Even from when she was 16, she used to... There's some things that really endeared me to her. First of all, she's a cat lady.
Yeah.
No, I loved reading about her picking up a stray cat covered in fleas and took it home. And then she got another cat. So she loves her cats. I also love that her house was an absolute tip. Yeah. And when they were teenagers and they'd hang out together, they were in Whitney's bedroom, which was just a mess. And they heard this crunching noise, and it turned out to be a little mouse eating a packet of crisps. And I was like...
Yeah, it's true, because Robyn says this flea-ridden cat was just driving her absolutely insane. She went, look, Whitney, at this point, I'm going to have to say it's me or the cat. And Whitney just turned around and went, pack your bags. Excellent.
But also, Whitney used to spend a lot of time on her own in her bedroom. And actually, she was always up late.
Oh, talking to Jesus.
Oh, talking
Heated
to
debates.
Jesus. Oh, my God.
To the point where Robyn thought, she's got to have someone in there. No, she's just talking to Jesus.
And said she would only leave her room to get snacks.
Yeah.
Can relate to that. Yeah. So she was always quite quiet. And in fact, Robyn said to her when they were teenagers, oh, come on, don't you want to come out? And she's like, don't worry, there's nothing going on out there. Nothing important's going on outside. Yeah. So she's always actually been quite insular and liked her own space and liked cocooning.
Yeah.
I don't think you get the opportunity to do that when you're a massive star.
Yeah.
Like when Eddie Murphy humiliated her, she disappeared for 2 days.
Yeah.
When I'm guessing she went to a hotel and shut herself away.
Yeah.
And there'd be points when they came off tour and they go to the house, Whitney would go into her room and not come out. And they used to leave trays of food outside her door, like room service. And even when Sissy came to the house and knocked on the door, Whitney wouldn't come out of her bedroom. So, you get to the point 20 years on where she is in the grips of addiction and she's not taking the help. She probably does just prefer to just disappear on her own. And ultimately that's what happened on the day she died.
And it's such a sad thing because she's got a bloody daughter she obviously absolutely loves, but it doesn't save her.
No.
And sadly, because of the absent mother and, occasionally present mother, who obviously her daughter adored, then she follows.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Follows on. It's very sad, and watching that play out in real time, as we did, was tragic. It's tragic.
Well, we should say that Robyn wasn't with Whitney in the years running up to her. So I think it got to the point where Robyn...
I think it's about 8 years between...
Yeah, I think that Robyn didn't make...
10?
Yeah, she didn't make peace with the situation, but I think she realised there's not much more I can do. No. Plus, she wasn't getting access to Whitney because everybody was keeping her away. Yeah. So at some point, for her own sanity... she has. Well, she moved across the country,
well,
didn't
yeah,
she?
it's we mentioned it just earlier when Bobby Brown was so powerful over Whitney. Whitney, in his presence, Robyn just couldn't get to her, even when she was standing there. So she just walked away. She had to. She moved to LA. Then she got a job for Arista and
Clive Davis asked her to come
back in New York, and it was a great job. And she packed up all her things and moved her whole life to New York and got there. And sorry, there's no job for you.
Yeah.
And she'd done a 2-week road trip or something across America.
All that way, and then they said actually there's not a job for you after all.
And I thought straight away Whitney's put a stop to that.
Well, it turned out
of course
a couple of years later she saw someone. They said, "Why did I get that job?" They said Whitney would have preferred it if you didn't come back.
Which is probably coming from Bobby.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Darn it.
I know, but she got a relationship going with somebody that used to be a colleague, a healthy one, a
Lisa,
loving one.
Yeah, she had a really nice relationship.
She now has this wife and a family.
Adopted 2 children.
Yeah, and they, she's made her life work for her. And then years later, when everything's good in her life, Whitney dying just knocked her for 6 or
of course.
12 or whatever. It just
must have been
completely and utterly.
Even though somebody's in that bad state, she would have been keeping up with what was going on in Whitney's life.
They got the odd call, they had the odd call and stuff. But it's that thing where she was saying to people at the funeral and they were agreeing, she just thought, everyone thought they had more time.
Yeah. Yeah, she even said that to Sissy, didn't she? She said, I thought there would be more time. And Sissy said, yeah, so did I.
Yeah, yeah.
God
I mean, you used to see the skeletal state of her. She even said she saw her on that Michael Jackson 30th anniversary special when she was skeletal. You just don't think it'll be so final. So Whitney died because she was very high on many different drugs and she slumped in the bath, which possibly had some heart failure or... Anyway, she became unconscious and slipped under the water. She's technically drowned. Means she actually might not have died had she...
Yeah, if she wasn't...
It was an accidental death. Yeah, she might have not been ill enough to have died. But she did.
Yeah, I just can't, reading, but I think she just probably had enough at that point.
Yeah, that last album when she sings that $1 Million Bill.
Yeah.
What an utterly cracking tune to bring out when you're actually on your way out. She never ever failed musically, right to the end.
Yeah.
It's a sad one it has to end like this.
I know.
The only positive is Robyn's got her life together with one great woman and kids.
Yeah. It's just so awful. Like, fame is just such a poisoned chalice, isn't it? Like, well, I was just about to say, like, nobody does well.
But of course,
people do.
I mean, drug addiction happens to millions of families and people lose sisters, brothers, mothers all the time who aren't famous. So it isn't necessarily fame. If she wasn't a singer, she was already doing drugs. I think all the same stuff would have played out. She'd have gone out with Bobby Brown, who was just a bloke.
Yeah, right.
And he'd have treated her badly, and that would have driven her into more drugs. And
it is just the availability of drugs, though, isn't it? Like when you're in the music industry and like when they go touring, it's just there.
Very much the availability of drugs.
And even if like you are, like Robyn said, she would come off drugs and she was clean, but she did dabble a little bit on tour.
She did, yeah.
And in fact, to the point where she was with Whitney's brother, Michael, I think, and he gave her a spliff and she thought, I'll just take a hit off the spliff.
Yeah.
But it was actually crack in the spliff, which really shocked her.
Yeah.
So, this is where Robyn has got clean and taken one step back. Actually, Whitney is still very much a part of this circle, which is now smoking crack cocaine and the spliffs and stuff,
Yeah.
Poor Whitney.
There's no jovial end to this. There's no jovial end to this episode. We're going to end sadly.
No, we can't.
I don't see a way out.
Oh, let's talk about how amazing she was singing the Star Spangled Banner.
Okay.
It's the best rendition of the national anthem ever.
Yes, it's very cool. She sang the Star Spangled Banner for a Super Bowl and she had a lovely dress, but they forgot that Florida in whenever time of year was freezing cold at night. So Robyn suggested she just wears this white tracksuit and trainers and a
headband.
Was it a headband? Yeah. Which was accidentally genius because it just made her not look like a diva but a real person.
Mm-hmm.
And the way she had so much gospel inflections into her rendition, Robyn says it connected with black people, a lot of people for the first time that the national anthem connected to them too. So the whole nation It united them. Her singing it united America in that moment.
Wow.
Which is very special. Again,
it is a stupendous version. Yeah. It's amazing.
Monumental.
She could sing anything.
So there's the positive. We found it. She left us with the music. And that's an amazing thing to have left us with. She was a star that shone and burned out, but she left us with the light.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. We're new to this and you could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.